Italian parsley, green onions, cilantro, and fresh basil. So is it possible to cut off 6 weeks of grow time in hydroponics? I'm going to show you the cheater's way. If you've been wanting to try hydroponics or just gardening in general, but you don't have the patience, well, I have a method I think you're going to like. It gives you practically instant results. In fact, I tried this about 3 years ago and I was delighted with how well it turned out. Now, I realize this is completely cheating and I'm okay with it because it's going to give you that instant gratification that sometimes you need to be able to sustain the several weeks that it takes for plants to grow. So this idea came to me just yesterday while I was shopping at Trader Joe's, and I thought, you know what? I did this a few years ago. Why not take it up a next level and give it another shot? So what I figured out 3 years ago is that you can successfully regrow the roots on herbs that have already been cut. And this can give you a major head start in your hydroponic grow. In fact, what I did 3 years ago is that I purchased a hydroponic basil plant from the grocery store, and I thought, well, it's already hydroponic. I'll transfer it into my hydroponic system. Well, by the time I got to that, the roots had already rotted and they weren't good anymore. So what I did was I totally cut off the root system and just stuck the stems into the hydroponic. And after about a week or so, they started regrowing. In fact, they turned into a total tree of basil. It was amazing. So today I'm going to extend the experiment that I did a few years ago with not just basil, but adding in cilantro, parsley, and green tail onions. This is no major breakthrough, but with a hydroponic system in place, it's different because you're getting light from the grow light and you're getting nutrients from the plant food. So the drawbacks of this cheater's method is it's a little bit more expensive. Instead of purchasing seeds to grow multiple plants, paying $3.99 a piece for each of these. But honestly, I was going to buy them anyway for cooking, so why not take half of them, put it into a hydroponic grow system and see what happens. And adding in this method to your regular hydroponic grow can add another layer of excitement to keep you going until your traditional hydroponics start to take off and gather momentum. And underneath my bench, I've got my hydroponic grow I just started a couple of days ago. I'm going to update you guys on that next week. But this is what we've got here. We've got Italian parsley, green onions, cilantro, and fresh basil. So first step, I'm going to separate out half of my plants. The rest can go back up in the kitchen, and I'm going to preserve half and half here. And I know the basil works because it worked for me last time. So again, I'm looking for the longest stems. Something with a node I think would be really good where the branches meet the stem. That's usually where the roots come out. So I'm definitely going to pick this one. Next, I'm going to pick my containers. So because there's so much leaf on the basil, I'm going to use a wide mouth jar, trim the ends, fill the jar with my plant food, and drop these in. The nodes are underwater, and so we're just hoping that that is enough to generate some root growth. So now time for parsley. Again, I'm going to snip the ends, kind of freshen them up, and drop them in. I don't really want the leaves hanging in the water, so I'm just going to kind of look at that, make sure they're not submerged too much. If so, I could always tighten up this opening a little bit. I could use some tape. If you need a smaller opening, you can use some masking tape. So I'm just going to take a couple pieces, narrow down the opening. So I'm just going to tape across like this, across the top of the mouth. So that definitely narrows the opening. So the plants will be more supported. Oops, make sure it sticks. Okay, parsley. Onions, I actually already did these. They definitely needed more support because they're taller, skinnier. So I put the masking tape on, made a little bit of a box there. Now I'm going to pour my water in carefully in this little gap. With the onions, we don't need to go all the way up because we're just trying to feed the roots. So I dropped some stones in there to add a little bit of volume to the bottoms. Where the green onions are a little bit different because they already have a root system in there, whereas the other herbs are already completely cut off. So my goal is to keep these roots like somewhat submerged, about 50-50. It's important for a root system in hydroponics to have a little bit of an air gap so it has a way to get some oxygen. So I just throw some stones in here to help keep the onions from being completely submerged. And then the tape helps stabilize them to keep them upright. All right. So the last one is cilantro. Filling it with water. All right, next up is cilantro. I'm going to trim the ends and then sort of splay them around the big jar here. So to kind of keep the leaves out of the water and keep the stems in. See if we can encourage some of that root growth. All right, folks, this is my experiment, the Cheaters Hydroponic. What do you think is going to happen? Have you done this before with the cuttings and trying to grow roots again? And be sure to join me next week when I do a 1-week follow-up on both the Cheaters Hydroponic and my traditional hydroponic, the mason jar hydroponic. So we want to see where the progress is after 1 week. And next time you go to the grocery store, stock up on some extra herbs and see if you can't extend your growing season with Cheaters Hydroponic.